Now what we have to work on is the windows. We don't have any windows in this building here, in this structure. So we're going to go ahead and get started doing the windows for the back over here. So if I look at the back wall, right now we just have a big square polygon back there. So what we're going to do is we're going to end up creating some windows right through there. Okay, so let's actually go ahead and get that done. I'm going to do it, I'm going to get started here with the back wall. I'm going to work on that back wall on the outside here, which is going to be pretty, very straightforward to do. So I'm going to open up the quad menu. I'm going to go to unhide by name, and I'm going to unhide the Windows blueprint. Remember this? This is going to be useful now, okay? So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go to edge mode, and I'm going to select the top edge and the bottom edge. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click, go to the quad menu. Let's go to the connect tool, but let's go to the options. Okay, so how many segments do I need for this wall to make these windows? Well, I need a segment for each one of the lines that these windows has going up and down or vertically. Okay, so here's a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I have 6 window panels from the left to the right. That's the maximum. Each window panel has basically 2 edges, one on the left and one on the right. So if you do the math, 2 times 6 is 12. Okay, so I'm going to need 12 segments. So I'm going to go ahead and make 12 segments, hit OK, and there we go. Now the next thing I want to do is I want to cut this in half. You see, we have so many windows on this wall, it'll be a real pain if we go in here and we build each window one by one and we do it 12. Well, what's better than building 12 windows? Building 6 windows, half as many. So let's do only half of the work and let 3ds Max do the other half of the work for us, because we're going to be really lazy. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the top edge here and the bottom edge here. This is basically this this strip right here, this polygon that's right in the middle of all 6 windows. And I'm going to go to connect. And I'm going to connect this just one time, right down the middle. Make sure that pinch and slide is set to 0. And I'll hit OK. And that's basically going to cut it in half. Okay. Now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here and try to select all these edges. Okay. So I basically have these edges selected here. I'm going to deselect the edges that are at the ends of this wall. Okay, so I deselect this edge and the one at the opposite end over there. And I'm going to go back to the connect tool options. And I need to make some segments here that run horizontally across the object here, the wall. And what I need is basically a segment for the top of the top windows, the bottom of the top windows, as well as the top here and the bottom here of this lower set of windows. So basically what I end up with is 1, 2, 3, and 4. I need 4 segments. So I'm going to go get 4 segments. Okay, I could play around with the pinch parameters here just to move those segments around a little bit, just to get them as close to the tops and bottoms of the windows as possible. Let me select this edge right here. Okay, I'm going to go to loop. That's going to select that loop of edges. Make sure snaps is turned off for now. And just move that pretty close to the bottom of the top windows. I'm going to select that loop of edges. Move that closer to there. And the only reason I'm doing that is just so it's closer for me when I start snapping the vertices in place, which we're going to do next. So I'm going to go to vertex mode. I'm going to select this vertex. And basically what we're going to do is we're going to take each one of these panels, and by panels I mean basically these new polygons that we have that we're going to use to create our windows. You see, each window has one panel that belongs to it. The problem is the panels don't line up with the windows perfectly. So what we're going to do is we're going to use go to vertex mode, and we're going to use the snap tool, snap these vertices to those windows, and use the Windows blueprint as a guide. Okay. Now there's a problem here. I'm using snaps, and snaps is acting pretty awkward, as you can see. So let me hit Control Z to undo. Okay. The default options for the snap settings in 3ds Max are very cumbersome and don't work very well. So to fix that, let's come up here to the snaps toggle tool. Right click to open up the options. Let's go to the options tab, and you'll notice that by default down here under translation we have display rubber band turned on, and these 2 options are turned off. I don't like that. That doesn't work out too well, so let's fix that. Let's turn off display rubber band. And let's turn on this bottom option here. This is very important. it's the option to use axis center as start snap point. That is an extremely important option, and it makes a world of difference when working with the snap tool inside of 3ds Max. So you want to make sure that's turned on. So let's close that settings window. And now let's go back here and let's take that. And you notice that as you start to snap these vertices into position, it feels a lot more fluid, and it's kind of what you see is what you get. And it's what you get is results that you would expect. You don't get those unexpected, quirky results from before, which can get pretty frustrating and very, very annoying quickly. So this works out much better. So I always use these snap settings by default. I strongly suggest that you use these snap settings. So basically what I'm doing is just taking these vertices and snapping them into position. So now basically my polygon panels, so to speak, that I created here match up with the windows on the blueprints. Now I don't want to waste time doing that for the opposite side, for the right side of the windows, because I'm going to have 3ds Max do the work for me. Here's what I'm going to do. Let's select this polygon and that polygon right there in the center. Let's go to Modify Selection and Graphite Modeling Tools and hit Grow. Now let's do that a few times until we have all of these polygons in this wall selected. Make sure that only the polygons on this wall are selected. Okay? And now what we're going to do is we're going to go back to the Graphite Modeling Tools with that wall selected. And we're going to go to the Geometry menu. And down here, let's click on Detach. And when 3ds Max asks us what we want to detach, we'll tell it to detach as a separate object. So make sure that the detach to element and detach as clone options are not checked on. Make sure they're off. Hit OK. Now we can see that if I change the color of this wall where the windows are is now its own separate object, which is good. So let me go to polygon mode. And what I want to do is I want to select half of the polygons. So you can see I only have the right half selected. Hit delete to get rid of them. We don't need them right now. Okay? So if I look at the green wall object here, I can see that my pivot point is down here by this blue area, and that's no good. What I want to do is use a modifier, the Symmetry Modifier in 3ds Max, which is basically going to take the work that we did on the left side and mirror it over to the right side, giving us a perfectly symmetrical object. And what it comes down to is basically we do half of the work, then we symmetrize it over to the opposite side, and that's it. So we only do half the work instead of doing twice the work, which is more efficient and faster. Okay? But right now the pivot point is placed in the wrong position. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to come up here to the command panel, and next to the Modify tab, we have this tab that's represented by this large white square and 3 little squares underneath it that are connected with lines. That's the Hierarchy tab. Let's go ahead and select that Hierarchy tab. And under the Adjust Pivot Parameter Rollout, we see that we have this button that says Affect Pivot Only. So I'm going to select that button. And you notice that my gizmo changes now to this different, basically an Edit Pivot gizmo. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that gizmo, I'm going to turn on snaps, and I'm going to snap it to this vertex right here. Now I can snap it to any of these vertices that are located right here on the right end of this object. So it really doesn't matter which one I snap it to, as long as it's snapped to one of the vertices that runs along this right side of the object, which used to be the middle. Okay? Let's go back to the Modify tab here so we can see our modifier stack. And with our pivot point adjusted and set up correctly, we're going to go to the Modifiers main menu item. Let's go to Mesh Editing. That's going to open up this submenu. And from this submenu, we're going to go ahead and choose the Symmetry Modifier. So let's go ahead and get that. And the default behavior, what it's going to do, it's going to make everything disappear. Okay? Don't worry. We're good. Nothing bad has happened. All we need to do is go to the parameters rollout here and change the mirror axis, because by default 3ds Max thinks that we're trying to mirror this on the x-axis, which is wrong. So we can choose the y or the z-axis. We want to choose the y-axis, and when I do that, I get this perfectly symmetrical duplicate over here on the right. Okay, so basically we did half of the work, we symmetrize it, and the other half of the work is done for us automatically. You can see it's perfect. So I only have to do half of the windows. So instead of doing 12 of these window panels, I only had to match up 6 of the vertices vertices on 6 of the panels. Okay. So once we get that done, we can choose to slice along mirror, which isn't going to make a difference right now because we already have a slice along the center here that I created manually myself earlier. We could also choose to weld the seam or not. If we don't weld the seam, basically what happens is these vertices here are not going to be welded. It's going to be an open edge, which I do not want. So I want to make sure that weld seam is activated. And we have a threshold that tells 3ds Max how far to weld the seams. Okay, so the default settings are going to work just perfect for us. Okay, so once this is done, I'm going to come over here to the modifier stack. I'm going to right click, and in the menu, I'm going to hit collapse all. When I do that, I get a warning message by default that basically tells me, warning, if you collapse the modifier stack, you're basically getting rid of the symmetry modifier, and you're going to basically freeze and cement all these changes. So would you like to do this? I'm going to hit yes. And you can see now that we just have a single editable poly. The symmetry modifier is gone, but the changes that the symmetry modifier made to our object remain. Okay, so it's basically like cementing this thing permanently and just keeping the changes forever. Okay, so now that that's done, I basically have the wall here pretty much done. All I'm going to do now is I'm going to go to, let me see here. I'm going to go to the inside object here. I'm going to take this polygon because we no longer need it. Okay, let me open up the transform type in tool. What I'm going to do is I'm going to copy its X transform. So Control C to copy that. And then I'm going to delete it. So bye-bye inside wall. Don't need you anymore. Okay, so now we have this inside wall. And what I'm going to do is select all of its polygons. And I did that very quickly by going to polygon mode and hitting Control and A, which selects all, and Control and D deselects all. Okay, so pretty useful shortcuts to remember there. So I'll select all the polygons from this wall. Okay, I'll use the move tool. I'll hold down shift and move this in like this. And when 3ds Max asks me what would I like to do, I want to clone this to element, so it's basically still part of the same object. And what I'm going to do is open up the quad menu and flip the normals. So now the normals are facing toward the inside of the house, which is exactly what I want. Now I'm going to activate the move tool, and in the transform type in tool, I'm going to paste the X transform that I stole from the original inside wall that I deleted. Okay, perfect. So now all I have to do is I'm going to turn on ignore back facing there, and I'm going to select all of these polygons on the outside. Then I'm going to select all of the polygons on the inside that represent the windows. So there's my window panels, and basically we're going to punch holes through these window panels. So what we're going to do is go to the graphite modeling tools. Let's go to polygons, and we have this tool for bridge. We've used bridge before, I believe. So let's go ahead and hit bridge, and there we go. And that pops holes into our mesh and creates these perfect windows. Okay, I'm going to go to edge mode. I'm going to select this edge here, control click this edge right there. Then I'm going to hit loop. See how we have those edges running down the middle? I'm going to hit control and backspace to get rid of that. Right now I'm basically just cleaning up my geometry. I have all these edges on the top and on the bottom down here, which I don't like. So I'm going to select this edge, that edge on the bottom. I'm going to come on the inside of the house, select that edge and that edge down there, and then I'm going to hit ring. And that's basically just going to select all of these edges in the tops and bottoms and the inside and the outside. Hit control and backspace to get rid of that stuff, and it's basically just going to leave one edge here and one edge there, and it needs that in order for the topology to be plausible. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and leave that there, so it's perfect. Now my windows, my walls here with the windows looks nice and clean, looks very good. Okay, so to finish this off, it's pretty simple. All I have to do is I'm going to select the house here, the blue house, and I'm going to right click to open up the quad menu, and I'm going to go to the attach command. I'm going to click on attach, and then I'm going to select the green wall here. And once I select it, it's going to become part of the house, as you can see. Then I'll hit the right mouse button to end the attach tool, the attach mode there, and there we go. Voila. we have a perfect wall with windows here in the back. Excellent. Looks awesome. Pretty easy to do and pretty nifty tricks for getting this done, right? Okay, so that's going to do it for this video. Let me close that. In the next video, we're going to go ahead and we need to work on the windows for the front of the house over here, which is going to be a similar process. We're just going to change it up a little bit, but it's the same basic overall technique. So we'll do that in the next video.